today we'll be doing 9618 computer science, and this is a full run through of paper 2. So in this video we'll be doing two main parts. We're going to do the pseudocode basics and the variables, constants and data types. Okay, it's pretty easy. We'll finish it really quick, but in the next few videos we're going to cover all of these. It's going to be arrays, user defined data types, common operators, selection, iteration, procedures, functions and file handling. Okay, so let's get started with today's part. Okay, let's start with the pseudocode basics. Okay, so in pseudocode basics there's a couple of things that we need to know. Okay, so starting off with the font. Okay, so in every pseudocode that you see in paper 2 there's going to be the Courier new font, and so whenever you see that, you know that is pseudocode. Okay, it's not very important, but you know it's good to know. All right, then we have indentation. Okay, so lines within loops or specific statements are indented, and this is usually done by 3 spaces. I'll show you an example in a bit. Okay, now case means lowercase or uppercase. So keywords like if, repeat, for and procedure are all in caps, as you can see, right? And then identifiers or variables have mixed case, which means there may be caps, capital letters and small letters in the same string. Okay, in the same identifier there's going to be mixed case. Okay, and then there's lines and numbering and comments. Okay, comments are basically in between your pseudocode. If you want to write some comments for your own reference, then you're gonna write 2 forward slashes and then you're gonna write your comment. Okay, so let me show you what this all means. Okay, so we started off by saying font, right? Now the font in pseudocode looks something like this. Yep, so this is the font of pseudocode, and this is the Courier new font that I was talking about. Okay, so now that you know what kind of font comes in pseudocode, the next thing we learned, okay, so font is done. Next was indentation. Okay, indentation is done by 3 spaces, like I said. So when we start our pseudocode, we write it in this line. Okay, and then we're gonna indent it by 3 spaces. What that means is 1, 2, 3, and that is where I'm gonna start my next line. Okay, and then all of these are gonna follow the same indentation, and then when I'm about to end my pseudocode, I'm gonna come back to the line. Okay, to this beginning line. Now when you start doing pseudocode, you'll get more used to this, but for now you just need to know that indentation exists in pseudocode. Okay, so indentation is done. Now we have case. Keywords like if, repeat, for, procedure, etc. are gonna have caps. So here we have the keyword procedure, right? And as you can see, it's in uppercase, right? It's all in uppercase. So some keywords are going to be in, all keywords are going to be in caps, okay, in uppercase. And then you might have variables. Okay, for example, this might have been temp normal. Okay, so as you can see, this variable has capital letters as well as small letters. Okay, so that is your case. And then lines and numbering is basically in pseudocode, in some of the questions you'd have numbers on each line. So it'll be like this. In the question, this would be given 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and so on. So it just helps the programmer to know like which line they're on, or if you have to make a change. For example, you're in a company and you're one programmer and then there's another programmer. So if you want to tell this guy to make a change, you could just be like, okay, change line number 4, right? Instead of being like change the line where y is becoming temp normal, you can just be like change line number 4. Okay, so it's just a simple thing used for the ease of programmers. All right, so that's lines and numbering. And comments, there are comments here. So for example, here I could have a comment that says, so for comments you start by 2 forward slashes, like I said. Okay, and then you're going to put something for your own reference. Now comments are not going to be run. Okay, so I'm just going to say x is assigned to temp. Okay, now this whole thing is not going to be executed. Okay, it's just a comment. It's just a note that a programmer is going to see, and it's not going to affect your program. Okay, it's not going to affect your code at all. Okay, so now that that's done, we're done with our first part. Pseudocode basics is done. Now let's move on to variables, constants, and data types. Okay, now coming to variables, constants, and data types, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 main data types. Okay, now this comes quite often in paper 2, and what will happen is that they'll give you some values and they're going to ask you what kind of data type it is. Okay, and it's basically like a table, and then you just have to fill it. Okay, so it's very easy once you understand it. The first one is integer, and integers are obviously whole numbers. So examples can be 6, -5, 3, 0, etc. Real means decimal, so that is 2.5, 1.3, and etc. Okay, char or char is a single character, it's just one letter. Okay, suppose you have A, B, C. This is 3 letters, this is not a char or a char, it's only A or only Z, only C. These are all characters. Okay, then we have string. Strings are sequence of 0 or more characters. So strings are always bound by quotation marks. Okay, and you can have an empty string, which means it's just empty. There's nothing in the string. That's why it's written as 0 or more characters. Okay, so you can either have 0 characters or you can have something written like moon or rat, or whatever. So your words are all strings. Okay, and it's always bounded by these quotation marks. It's very, very important to have those. Okay, then you have boolean, and boolean is basically a yes or no question, or like a true or false question. And lastly we have date, and that's pretty obvious, it's just a valid date, and it's usually in this format: DDMMYYY. Okay, so for example 25/05/2007 means 25th May 2007. Okay, or like 16/09/1978 means this is the day, this is the month, and this is the year. Okay, so it's pretty easy. Now moving on, identifiers and variables. So how do you name them? Okay, now there are 2 main things that you need to remember. Okay, firstly, they must start with a letter, not with a number. So an example is this array. Okay, I'm gonna give a few examples. I'm gonna tell you which ones are right, which ones are wrong, why it's wrong, etc. Okay, 2 things, 5 stars. Okay, so these are some examples of identifier names. Okay, now these 2 are fine. Okay, why? Because must start with a letter, not number. Okay, and secondly, case sensitive, countdown and countdown are the same thing. What does that mean? Basically here there's capital C, and here this is a small d, right? But here both of them are capital. But even if you think they might be different, it's the same exact thing, because identifiers are always case sensitive. Okay, so suppose I have another thing called this num. Okay, now these 2 things are correct, this is also correct. But if you have a program with both these, right, it's the same exact thing, there's no difference between it. So if you think that this is different, then your entire program is going to go wrong. Okay, so remember that it's always case sensitive. All right, 5 stars, this is wrong because it starts with a number, right? And I just said that it must start with a letter, not a number. And in the similar way, there's 2 in the beginning, so even this one is wrong. Okay, so it's pretty simple. Identifiers must start with letters, plus it is case sensitive. That's all you need to know. Okay, now the last 3 things left here is variable declarations, constants, and assignment. Okay, now these are very important. So variable declaration is basically, in a program you're going to have many variables. Okay, you're going to make your own variables, and when you make your own variables, you need to declare it. You need to let the computer know what data type it is and what the name of the variable is. Okay, so this is the format. Okay, everything given in green is the format of how you write these things. All right, so declare identifier colon data type. Okay, so for example, if I have a variable called marks, okay, called my marks, it's a variable that contains the marks of students. Okay, so I'm gonna describe it to my computer. I'm declaring it to my computer, telling it what kind of data type it is and what the variable name is. Okay, so you write declare, and then my identifier name is my marks, and then the data type, obviously marks are going to be integers, right? It could be real as well, but here I'm going to take it as integer. Okay, another example could be declare student names. Okay, so student names, what do you think that would be? Would it be char, or is it going to be string? Now I told you char is only one letter, right? And string is going to be like a series of letters, so obviously it's going to be string. Okay, so that's all you need to know for declaration. Now coming to constants, sometimes suppose you have like a question where it says you will be given like the number of apples. Okay, number of apples is 5, and then they're going to tell you that for each apple's cost is $5. Okay, and you need to find the cost of 5 apples. Now you can either do 5, okay, let me make this like 50, or no, let me make this 30 apples and $5 each. Okay, so you can either do just like 5 times 30, right? Or you could actually make this a constant. Okay, you could say that 5 is like a fixed rate, so you can say fixed rate is equal to 5, right? And then in the program you can say number of apples, which is 30 times fixed rate, right? So instead of writing the number, you're gonna make a constant. Okay, so that's the use of constants. So for example, I could make a constant that goes like constant fixed rate equal to 25.6, or I could have something like constant fuel price is 50.7. okay, these are just examples, but basically this is how you declare your constants. Okay, so now you don't have to use the number itself anymore, you can just use these identifier names. Okay, now lastly we have assignment. Assignments are basically you're gonna assign values into your variables. Okay, so let's take the same variables I took before, my marks and student names. Okay, so suppose I want to store something into my marks. I want to store the marks of the first student, and suppose our first students got 55, okay, out of 60, right? So you're gonna put 55. Okay, and what does this do? It basically takes 55 and it puts it in the variable my marks. Now it's easy to imagine variables like boxes. Okay, so suppose you have a box called my marks. Okay, and you want to put something into this, so you're going to take your 55, you're going to put it inside this variable, inside this box. Okay, that's all you need to know. Let's take another example, student names. Suppose I want to assign something here. What am I going to put? I'm going to put an arrow into this, going into this, and I'm going to put the student's name, Max. Okay, so that's it. So the assignment operator is the arrow. Okay, and assignments should be made in this format, and the identifier must refer to a variable, and the value may be any expression that evaluates to a value of the same data type as the variable. So what that means is, for example, suppose here for my marks someone puts max here. Okay, so suppose the person wants to put max into my marks. Do you think it's gonna accept it? No, it won't. Why? Because my marks was declared as an integer, which means that it's only going to take in integers. It's not going to take in strings. Okay, so you need to always make sure that the thing that you're assigning into your variable is the same data type as the thing that you declared it with. Okay, and another thing is that, for example, if you want to do calculations, you don't have to just put these numbers or words. You can actually have like like full on calculations. So it couldn't be like my marks, or let's not do my marks, let's do average marks. Okay, you can say that average marks is total divided by count. Okay, you can have a whole operation happening, and then the final value is going to be assigned into this identifier. Okay, so yeah, so that's it for the first two topics in pseudocode paper 2. In the next video we're going to be doing arrays, user defined data types, and yeah, we're going to do two in each video. Okay, so that's it. I hope you guys understood everything, and I hope you enjoyed. If you like my videos, please do not forget to like, subscribe, share, comment. If you have any questions, do ask me and I will reply. And yeah, that's it for me. Thank you.